It is finished. Man, and I'll briefly acknowledge if you're keeping pace with these videos, this is not coming out fast. Uh, I put the videos out slowly. I actually got a little bit burnt out. I did not miss a day though, and if you're following this, hopefully you know and believe that. But either way, this book took me 300 days to read. If you read it correctly, you can't do it faster. That's just how it's supposed to be read. Although in reality, you can read it within probably 2 hours. So, man, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Mandino. I did buy it used, but it is now super used and in two parts if you want to share with your friend while you're working through it. Almost in three. This has got some damage. It'll be back on the shelf, but forever in disarray. Actually, one thing I will tell you, and if you're watching this far, this is probably not useful to say, but if you are watching this one first for some reason, or recommending this to a friend, encourage them to get a new copy because I'm curious how beat up this will be after 900 sittings with it minimum. Um, let me start with this the short story involved in it. Worth it just for the short story that leads into the scrolls and concludes after the scrolls. Really, really good, especially if you know much about Hebrew and history and literature, or if you're interested in that. It connects a lot to the Middle East in its storytelling modality and in its religious mythology. So, similar to The Alchemist in that sense, where there is a somewhat of a coming of age narrative in it, maybe a finding yourself narrative within that story. And the scrolls, which are meant for both myself and you listening, are also meant for the fictional person within the story. So the scrolls themselves are technically fictional, but applicable, right? And it's designed to be, I mean, this book is a business book, a self help book, but it's technically through the lens of fiction, even though about 80% of it is just regular kind of affirmation feels way too of its era because this book is older and they're not really affirmations, they're just things to say to yourself daily to remind you of the type of person you are. And I know you might hear them be like, that's an affirmation. If you read the book, I think you'd understand why I don't feel like affirmation is the right word. 1968 original publication. So at the time of recording, it's about 60 years old almost, coming up on it. So about 58 and timeless. Just as a side note, if you're into business and you wonder what business books you should read, any business book that is old, you should read. Because that means it was not just of the era. It wasn't a dot-com bubble book. It's not an AI bubble book. It is a book that is true to what business is at its core and its principles. This book is one of those things. The overarching theme here is to be successful as a salesman and by extension in business is you have to, my interpretation of this, be loving and kind to the people you're selling to. And first, you have to sell them love and care. And you have to be healthily rooted in who you are. It's not about getting someone to buy something, it's about caring for other people. And the core of any good business is a business that cares for its community and its customers that it serves. It is not a business that makes money. That is not the core of business. And a lot of places, the USA being one of them, we teach kind of two main principles, two primary do this, don't do that approaches. And that's the bulk of it. And it's do this, make money, make as much money as you can. Don't do anything illegal. Or if you do, make sure you have ways to avoid getting in trouble. So we teach make money. Here's how to work around the law. We don't teach morals and ethics. And it's actually one of the things that I work really hard on with the business consulting and training programs that I do with my work and my practice is teaching people how to be centered properly and to identify with who they are, their purpose, their meaning, what they're made for, their core identity and who they are, and to actually prioritize morals and ethics with your business, not just numbers and avoiding the law, so to speak. So that resonates with me a lot for that reason. I love it. I love it. I love the book. I can see myself recommending it to a lot of people, but it's one of those that I feel like needs to be recommended with a conversation. Not just a, hey, go read this, but like, this is an interesting book, and this is what you need to know about it, and this is my recommendation for what kind of mindset and pacing to go into it with. This was hard for me to do. I don't want to do this again. I hope I never do this again. Just, hitting these tallies for each completed day as I went through the process, I don't want to do it again. It was always fun getting 30 days in and flipping the page because I didn't look ahead. I had no idea what future scrolls would be. So that was always fun. There were about one or two that I read them and I'm like, oh, I got to do this 90 times. Because if I didn't say already, you read it 3 times a day, each scroll. Morning, afternoon, evening, and in the evening, you read it out loud. And then go to bed. So you're supposed to read it first thing when you wake up-ish, roughly. I think it encourages right when you wake up. Sometime on a lunch break, middle of the day, and then right before you go to bed out loud. And I think there are probably 2 hardest points for me with this. One was I hit a point where I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And what actually helped me get through that was difficult moment number 1. Actually, I just went in backwards order. I started this, and a couple months in, went to South Africa, which is about 7 or 8 hours ahead of where I'm at in Central Time in the US, depending on daylight savings, because they don't flip with us, so we're 7 or 8 hours difference. And that travel was hard for a couple of reasons. One, changing time zones. I was trying to map out like I don't want to miss the reading, because if I miss it, if I feel in my gut that I have messed up, I would have to start over. I couldn't live with myself going forward. That sounds dramatic, but like I wouldn't be able to say I did this. And as a side note, it grinds my gears when people are like, well, I missed a day, but I still did it. You did not do it. Period. You maybe feel accomplished, but you didn't do the thing. Just like when I did 75 hard and I talked to other people who were like, well, some days I didn't do an outdoor workout because, it was cold. I'm like, you didn't complete the challenge then. We did not complete the same thing. You didn't do it. I did it. Like there's a sense of pride in accomplishing it. Like you should also be proud that you did what you did, but you need to acknowledge you didn't actually do the challenge. There's a reason why these people create these types of challenges. There's a reason why this is hard, and to do it the way it's structured is because one of the key takeaways is, and a lot of accomplished business owners will tell you this, it's doing the boring, consistent things all the time. The boring, daily, repetitive things all the time. That's what this is, and that's a big part of it. That's what success is. So to say like, I kind of did it. It's like you objectively failed it, but hopefully you still got something out of it. And that doesn't mean be ashamed of yourself, right? It's like, I ran I didn't run a sub 4-minute mile. I ran it in 5 minutes. That's still a fantastic thing to be accomplished, but correct, you didn't run it in 4:59. So that's a little bit of a tangent for me. I want people to always feel accomplished, but we also shouldn't pretend we've accomplished something when we didn't. You should find what you actually accomplished. If you read this book and did 899 out of 900 readings, you should be proud of yourself. You also didn't do the 900. 2 things can be true at the same time. So maybe that sounds a bit gatekeeping. Not what I'm trying to do. I actually say that because I think you'll be psychologically stronger and healthier if you can acknowledge that you didn't achieve something versus if you pretend that the corners you cut were the same thing as actually doing it. You'll be so much more satisfied with your life if you don't cut those corners. So it also depends on the standards you set for yourself. And I think this book is just a good example of that for me. So why I bring that up on that tangent, my gosh, I hope I don't sound awful. You got a little passion out of me there. So what the travel did for me was it was important for me that I still met those 3 readings a day. And the 2 hardest periods of that travel would be entering Africa and entering the US, and time zone differences. And how do I get these readings in properly? Where does time shift? How do I want to do this? And admittedly, I don't remember the exact method I used. So if you're asking that same question, sorry. But what I did is I sat down. Again, I'm not going to tell you the exact, because I don't remember how I drew the line, but I know how I approached figuring out the method, which was I need to just have a standard for myself. And once I've set that, you cannot break that. So, for example, we got up in the morning to travel. I did my reading, and I knew, well, at least for the first couple hours of flight, we'll still be in US territory. I'll get my midday flight done then. And so that was easy. And then, same with coming back home. It was, well, in Africa when I wake up, and then when I'm at the airport, I will do so like two readings of each day. So it was really finding one reading on each of those days, which was harder. And actually, on the way back, we flew out at like 11 p.m. So actually, when I tried to lay down to take a nap on the plane, I did a reading. Um, and then functionally, what I did is made a decision on how I wanted to move forward with the in between. So, do I go off of Africa time for the next reading? Do I split the margin, do a 4 hour time frame? And so that was a big deal for me to make sure I kept that in track. And then a little bit of jet lag getting there. And there were a couple moments where I passed out and woke up at like 11 o'clock at night, did a reading, maybe 2 in the morning, did a reading. I'm like, oh, that, like, this is my evening one. But I actually would like pull out of a dream. I had done this for a couple months now, and my brain, I guess, like knew that I had to get the reading done. A couple times I woke up like in the early part of the middle of the night. I was like, you gotta do your reading real quick. And admittedly did a bit of a panic reading a couple times until I got acclimated to the new location. So for about 3 or so days there, it was like, well, and once I got home from the US, I remember telling myself, if I managed to do this perfectly, and I was on vacation the whole time, right? And being like, oh, I gotta get my reading in. I'm like, if I don't accomplish this, what a waste of my time to stress about that and prioritize that while on vacation with family overseas. And so when I felt temptation to quit towards the end, it was because of that that I'm like, not a chance that you're going to quit now after what you did. So that was also good encouragement for me of trying to have moments in your life when you're working on goals that you kill it so hard that future excuses sound pathetic to you. Don't project this onto other people. But there are definitely moments where I'm like, dude, you've done this under way worse circumstances. Get the reading done. Or by extension, get the workout done. Get the outreach done. Call clients. Do your job. Work the extra hour. Don't take this 2 hour break because you're a little tired. Um, Obviously, don't do this to like a, mindset of like, oh, I'm just going to grind until I get success. Not like that, but just motivate yourself of what you're capable for because you've proven to yourself in the past that you are capable. So the 10 scrolls are great. They're not quite at the point where I want to get them all framed and on my wall, although I kind of want my little certificate in metal to wear saying I did it. But, which admittedly would just go up on my wall in my bedroom, which is all of my diplomas and certifications are on my bedroom wall because I like them. I actually don't display them at work or in shared space where people can see. Most of my achievements are for my own sense of joy. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Same with this. Every medal I have is either been donated or given away, thrown in the trash, or it's just over in a corner just for me to look at. Cause I'm like, that's cool that I did that. And this is the same thing. I'll have it on the shelf and I'll look at it sometimes like, this is cool. I read this and it ripped in half. That's fun. I worked hard on destroying this book appropriately. And there's a sense of satisfaction. Like I earned this book looking like this. Again, I bought it used. It had a little bit of rough and tumble on it already, which is why I recommend getting it new if you can. But it's just cool. It's fun. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. That's for sure. And like I said, I don't want to do it again. But I'd be willing to do other things again. I think there's a real skill in any book that is teaching you something to go at the pace of what the book is requiring of you. Where is it? It's over there. I won't get it. Atomic Habits is the same way. Whenever someone tells me I recommend Atomic Habits to a lot of people, and when someone says, "Hey, I picked it up and I read it in like a week. It's great," I'm like, "Are you gonna reread it?" And they're like, "No, it was great." I'm kind of like, "Come on, man! Like, you can't do it in a week. You can read it in a week and then decide if you want to use it. But to use that book properly will take a couple months because he's giving you methods of how to apply it. So if you want to do it really well, pick some things you're trying to change and apply it, and it'll take time. And that's what's really cool about that book is it takes a little bit of time to use effectively, just like this. You can read it or you can use it effectively. There's another book, again, not right here, that I recommend to every person who's opening a private practice. Building Your Ideal Private Practice by Lynn Grotsky. Fantastic. It's also fantastic because it's one of the few books on running a business that is written by a therapist, primarily for therapists. It's applicable to anyone, but she's very clearly a professional who teaches therapists how to do private practice, and it's by extension available to other people. Um, but that one, the same thing. Like if you do that in a couple weeks, I'm like, what are you doing? And where's all your notes? Where's all your proof of the homework she gave you and the task that you're supposed to do? Same with, geez, I got this guy right here. Woo! Same with this book, right? Like, there's a lot of my notes from that's only like half of my notes. And then all my like dog years to come back and do this correctly. And I think it really comes back around to in life, are you trying to just check boxes or are you trying to get your goals achieved and get to the end, to the destination? And a destination is a process. And if your goal is just to read 100 books in a year, you can do that easy. Read the whole Magic Treehouse and Goosebumps collection. You can be done in 2 months, right? Your goal isn't to read 100 books a month. There's some deeper accomplishment there. Because, yeah, you could just read a bunch of kids' books and call it good. Or could you read one book over 10 months and potentially get more from that than the 100 other, right? There's a happy medium between those two, I imagine, for most people. But I want to know if I'm going into a book to learn, I got all the time in the world, okay? I want to learn. I'm not trying to beat anyone. I want to develop and I want to grow. If it's just an entertainment book, like this killer series that I'm working on right now, I keep saying this and that. I know some people listen to these. I talked about Atomic Habits, Building Ideal Practices. The other one I brought up was $100 million Offers by Alex Hormozy. And now I'm holding up Matt Dinniman's Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Book 3, which I'm getting a little bit close to finishing. This is entertainment, this book. I read it before bed or on vacation because it's fun. If I binge it in a day or two, who cares? I'm having a good time. That's the point. If I want to develop personally in a nonfiction type of book, or if I want to study a fiction book, because some of them are fantastic works of just creative depth, and you can learn a lot more from some fiction than you can from nonfiction, then I go slow and I take notes. Or maybe I feel like I have enough to sit on and I actually only read a paragraph and I have to study it for a long time. If you follow this channel, it's taken me over a year to get through Jordan Peterson's We Who Wrestle with God because it just kind of wrecks me mentally. And some of you have clearly communicated your frustration at my pacing, and I'm also, admittedly, I get you. I hear it. I just, missed the bandwagon to put all those videos out week after week and probably increase my views and the YouTube shorts that come along with it because they were doing well. And I'm well past that window now that it's been out for 14, 15 months. But I'm learning a lot from it. And it takes me about 5 to 10 minutes per page to read and study and then consider for a while and apply. And I have a notebook that I track it. So the point is, this book, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Mandino, is one that you can study and sit with for a while. Go for it. And if you're watching this summary video first and review video first, the rest of the videos are out. You can do it with me retrospectively, and we can have check-ins after each month after you do it. And especially if you're reading it, comment, I want to know. I know some of you have mentioned to me that you're doing this. Great. Join the series. It's fun. It was worth the time, and you will be glad you did it. So that is what I got. Thank you for any and all of you who joined this process. And if you've read it or plan to read it, let me know. Join the conversation on it. I love it. Yeah, it's fantastic. And as always, if you want to chat more, I got my info in the comments. I got my connection points in the comments. You can reach out by email or YouTube comments or just check out my website. So yeah, y'all, good stuff. Thanks for joining this journey. It was quite a lot of fun, actually. So we'll see you at the next one.